Welcome back to the Drop Bass Not Bombs podcast. I'm your host, Amy Farina, aka I'm Unicorn. I'm here today with Australian DJ and producer DAVOR. What's up?
What's happening, Amy? How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you? So, are you in Australia right now?
Indeed, I am. Yes,
What
yes.
time? What time is it over there?
Uh, it's 9 in the morning here at the moment. So big, crazy time difference, right?
Yeah, it's wild. So, those of you who are watching on YouTube, you can see I'm not in my office right now. I'm not in the Netherlands. I'm in New York still. And yeah, it's 5:02 p.m. here, so it's a crazy time difference.
End of the day, right? It's good.
Wild. Well, let's jump in. So, can you tell us first a little bit more about yourself and how you got started in the world of electronic music? Do you have an earliest electronic music memory?
Yeah, I do. So I wasn't actually born in Australia. I was born in a little country called Macedonia, and I moved to Australia with my family when I was about 11 years old. So it was quite a bit of a culture shock, but even, during that time that I was living overseas, my brother was very big on the electronic scene at the time, and he used to listen to it all the time. He's about 6 years older than me. He used to listen to The Prodigy on CD, and that's was really my introduction to electronic music, and sort of one of my earliest memories. And he also had a Faithless CD as well that was, played so much that it got destroyed pretty much. So it was a good time, to be honest, and that music sort of resonated. I mean, it stuck with me because I enjoyed the music. I genuinely just enjoyed it. And then eventually during high school, things just started picking up because you had a lot more access to music, especially in the Western world. It was a lot harder for us to get music in Macedonia at the time because, we had to buy the CDs. We didn't have a computer, so it was a bit of a different story. But that was a great memory to have.
Yeah, I mean that's classic. Yeah, Prodigy and Faithless, those are both timeless classics. So that's a
Yeah.
cool. It's a good way to get introduced for sure. So, did you have a moment where you were listening to music and decided you wanted to DJ or produce, or how did you make that jump from just listening in high school with your brother to what you do now?
Yeah, I mean, I think when so I studied high school in Australia, so all my high school years were there. As soon as I finished high school, um, I've had a love for all kinds of music, to be honest with you. Hip hop, rap, death metal, electronic music. I've used to listen. I still listen to everything nowadays. But I think my interest in really making the music was when I attended my first rave. And that's when, I had just turned 18. One of my best friends wasn't even 18 at the time. He used my ID and then he came in later. So that was fun. And it was Cosmic Gate. And I think it was, just the overall experience of being with your best friends at the time and just enjoying that moment. That's when it really started to spark an interest in you know playing in front of a crowd. Firstly, DJing was the first interest, and then a little while after that was the production. So yeah.
That's amazing. So, would you say Cosmic Eight are the ones who got you into trance? Did they pull you in and lead you on this journey? Because they're amazing.
Yeah, they're great. There was definitely one. That's definitely one of the artists, Cosmic Gate, and also when we just about to finish high school, we were 17, 18 at the time. We started going to the gym a lot. So I don't know if you know much about the Ziz era in Australia,
Mhm.
but it was, it's quite massive. It probably still is now. But we were very inspired by, Ziz and his brother and, the culture of just training hard and, you know, going out to, going to festivals to look good. And it was just like this whole thing. And we know that he, used to listen to uh, Above and Beyond and like early hardstyle of Brennan Hart and things of that nature. So we got introduced to that type of music, trance music, really, with that Ziz culture, us going to the gym and making the most of it and getting hyped up to go out and go to festivals. And then eventually that's what we got interested in. So it was Cosmic Gate, Above and Beyond. But even before that, during high school, I was listening to, you know, early Dead Mouse as well. That was like one of my biggest inspirations as well. So there's quite a few, you know, things that have happened until now that inspired me to do this. So yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned a lot of different genres. So I know Ziz's best from muzzing, like the muzzing videos.
Yeah, yeah.
And again, I
Yeah.
come from the hardstyle scene, so we still see his dancing, you know, that style a lot, especially in the US. Not so much in the Netherlands, but definitely in the US, there's a lot of muzzing.
Yeah.
You mentioned a lot of different subgenres. Do you have a favorite when it comes to producing, a favorite when it comes to listening, or would you say it's trance? Because your music kind of, it dabbles in a lot of different genres.
Yeah, for sure. To be honest with you, Amy, like my interest changes quite frequently in terms of subgenres. Um, and what I try to do in a lot of my productions is, even though I may be going slightly faster in some tracks and slightly slower in others, I do try to retain what I'm known for in terms of my sound. Um, and you know, as of recently, you know, I'm just starting my journey in production really, because there's a lot of other artists there here that have, you know, been doing it for, you know, 20 plus years, 30 plus years. So I have a lot to learn. But in terms of what people know me from, they know me from, you know, my crazy chops, you know, all these different, you know, bass drops between build ups and trying different things and remixing songs that you probably wouldn't have thought to remix. That's what I enjoy doing a lot, when I just want to have fun and produce. In terms of subgenres, like I have a lot of influence from, you know, the tech trance scene, specifically you know, some of the old school tech trance scene as well. You know, Mauro Picotto is one of my very big influences, but also, you know, some great friends of mine, like, you know, Shugs. He has been a great influence because I used to listen to him all the time, and being able to, you know, meet him and have proper conversations with him, was an amazing thing. Sam Jones is a huge influence for me in terms of the way that he, you know, works through his productions, and the way that he does his effects is just, you know, next to none. It's just crazy. Um, so, you know, all those artists in the tech trance scene, and of course, you know, the great artists like Carney and Jock and Schneider and things of that nature. But um, yeah, it just depends, you know, what type of mood I'm in, really. Like if I just recently released a remix of Crew Love, and you know, I decided to make that a 155 BPM, like hard dance, hard techno style remix. But then if I'm doing something else, I might do a track that's at 140 or 142. I know the importance of, I'm trying to understand the importance of being able to dabble in different styles and subgenres, but still retaining your sound, because at least you're evolving your sound, but also learning um, new things as much as you can from different genres. It's going to help you in the long run. So yeah.
Do you ever get any pushback when you dabble in other genres? Because I know in certain genres, we won't say which, but in certain genres, there's when someone starts to leave, let's say trance to go to techno, it's like, oh, you should have seen it, or we liked Armin better here. You know, people have strong opinions. Do you ever experience that?
To be honest with you, not yet, not really. I mean, I think I have seen some comments here and there lying around, but I try not to focus on them, to be honest with you. And I know exactly which community you're talking. To be honest with you, I think, you know, the crazy thing is right, like um these I feel like these waves of music that, you know, people, and I've been in the scene long enough to know that, you know, sometimes the scene, especially in Australia, sometimes the scene goes a lot harder for a few years, and then they like to listen to things that are a lot slower for a couple of years, and it just comes in waves, and it just depends on, you know, what the summer season, what's who's released what, and what their interests are. Um, I think it's important, you know, for people to understand that, like, as an artist, like, you know, that, you know, your favorite artist is going to be doing things differently. Otherwise, you're going to get bored of what they're producing at the end of the day. And yes, I know that, I've released things, even especially on my SoundCloud, that I know are hit and miss, to be honest with you. But that's just the beauty of being able to have that online platform, is that I know what people are going to listen to versus I know what I enjoy making. But at the same time, if I can marry up the two, then it's great. But I think it's very important for me to stick true to my sound and be able to express myself because, it's my journey at the end of the day. But I know that I also love the music that my listeners love as well. So I know I'm sort of going on the right track with the type of stuff that they listen to. So yeah, I haven't gotten much pushback yet, but I'm sure it's probably going to come in the future.
Well, people always have something to say, but so long as you're saying, true to yourself and to your unique sound, then that's great. So speaking of your unique sound, we got connected through a mutual friend on Instagram, and your Instagram name is DAVOR Sound. So how would you describe for listeners what your unique sound is? Or could you try to sum it up in like one word?
Look, I think it's I don't know, like I think a good way of um a good way of boiling it down to, two words, let's just say, I think is just hard dance, but also, it's just driving, melodic, um, futuristic in a sense. That's what I like to think when I get producing, to be honest with you. And, more importantly, I want it to be very unique. I want to, I suppose, lead the trance music production or the hard dance scene in a sense, from being able to get influence from other genres, whether it be sampling something from a hip hop tune or remixing something like that, or rap, or being able to just marry up things that I've always enjoyed in the past, and just be my unique self. I think that's the way that I would describe it.
Nice. And so when you go about blending different genres, are there any challenges? Because you do it really well, like you said, especially like hard dance and trance. And of course there are overlaps in those genres, but how do you go about blending it so that it works? So so that people like it? Because there are, once again, opinionated people in both of those genres. So how do you marry them? How do you get everybody dancing?
Yeah. Look, I think there's a it's great to keep a balance of, making something that that if you're going to play live, that people are going to be enjoying the hell out of it and be going crazy. But then at the same time, you want to be able to express your production quality as well, and what you enjoy. I've produced uplifting tracks that are, at 140, that, I've played live, that you can only, I suppose, play live in the certain moments of your set, or play live in a crowd that is going to really enjoy that, the hands in the air, uplifting trance kind of thing, that people are there to sort of listen. It depends on the night and the lineup and who's playing, right? So you cater your set to depending on the crowd and what they want to hear and what you want to play as well. So I think it's, picking your battles is pretty important, right? Like if I'm gonna, release a free download on SoundCloud, I want to make sure that people can go to the gym and train as hard as they can with it. They can, do pre's before rave and listen to my music on their SoundCloud. That's what ultimately the SoundCloud is for, to just for people to have a good time. And then, those, official releases will show, my original work, and, people can still do the same, of course. But I'll be able to, pick and choose what the right audience is for it. And I think that's what's beautiful and exciting about being able to learn as many different genres as possible, is that you're never going to get, bored. It's always going to be an exciting journey as you go. So, yeah.
Nice. Are there any genres that you haven't tried that you'd be interested in? I'm thinking like, I don't think you have any dubstep or like bass
No, no,
or trap,
um,
Moombatone.
no,
Oh my God, play
no.
Melbourne Bounce. Melbourne Bounce is
Melbourne Bounce. Yeah.
my favorite dead
Um,
genre, but I love it.
I know it was great. It was a good time. Honestly, like I love drum and bass. I've dabbled in making it, but I'm not like any good at it, to be honest with you. There's still a lot of work to do there. Um, yeah, I think drum and bass is a big one. That I've always loved listening to at the end of the day. And there's the style of a K9 that he marries up a drum and bass track, and he'll have like a half beat bass that sounds like a hard dance track as well. So it's like this beautiful blend of just crazy energy. It's crazy fast, but I think it's exciting. Um, I can't think of any else at the moment, really. Like I know that my interests also come in waves as well. Like the most recent release on my SoundCloud is at 155. I may go a little bit faster, or I'm probably gonna take it down a couple of notches after this. So it just depends on my mood.
That's funny. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So, getting into a little more detail about your production process, can you walk us through step by step from when you get an idea for a track to when we're hearing that track on SoundCloud? Or does it change every time?
Yeah, look, it changes a lot, and I think a lot of producers will resonate with this. Well, I mean, I think the boys that I speak to and the friends of mine that I produce with, and they help me out as well, and it's always good to have that support network to give feedback on tracks and stuff. But um, it just really depends, like I'll have I've finished tracks before in the span of 4 hours because I'm just in such a great creative flow that I know exactly what needs to sit where. Um, in terms of remixes, I always go back to my Spotify on my phone. So I'll go on my Spotify and I'll hit shuffle. And once I keep hitting shuffle, go to the next track, next track, next track. And I have like, 8,000 songs on my Spotify from all these different genres. I'll hear something that I haven't heard in God knows how long, in years, and I'm like, wow, like this could be a very good remix because one, I love the song. Two, everyone else loves the song. Three, it fits well into the genre as well. So then what I'll do is I'll get, the project ready, get the vocal ready. I always try to stick true to the song itself in a way, and sample elements that are going to resonate and people are going to know and relate to the original song and make it also in a much more fresh outlook as well. So remixes are extremely fun. Obviously some take a lot longer, some take a lot shorter. With the originals, I feel like the process is slightly different because I may start a project with a melody that have written, from a long time, and then I just work around the project. So I may do, the first drop at one point and then the final drop on another day. Sometimes, I can become a hermit crab and spend all weekend in the studio and then, force myself to finish a track until, I'm satisfied and then I can go about with everything else. But it just depends, I think, in challenging days of my life as well, I've been producing things that are a lot more emotional, which is, I think that's one important thing for, future producers out there to understand is you can still do the work. You don't have to force yourself to produce a part of the track that you don't want to. Just go in there with the current mood, whether it's, sadness, aggression, happiness, love, and be able to show that in what you're making. And it's very similar to how an artist would paint a canvas at the end of the day. So, you chip away at it one by one, and then eventually it turns into something great and you move on to the next one. So, yeah.
Nice. I can imagine that's challenging. I struggle with perfectionism, so I think I would just like, oh, this needs to get
Yeah.
right. Do you struggle with that as well, or are you able when you're done with a track to walk away? I guess my question is, when do you know when a track is done? If it's just you
Uh,
producing.
Honestly, Amy, like if you go to my SoundCloud and you scroll all the way down and you have a look at the when I first started producing about 5 years ago now, you can still see the very first remix I ever made, which I think was a Dash Berlin remix of
Oh, I
Till the
love
Sky
Dash
Falls
Berlin.
Down.
Oh,
Yeah. Um, I'll tell you right now, the track is absolutely horrible, and it's still in my SoundCloud. I still have all my old tracks on there. The reason why I have all the old stuff on there, even though, sometimes I'm like, oh, maybe I should get rid of this. Like it's because you listen back to it now, you're just like, oh, goodness gracious, what was I thinking? But the reason it's a great thing for me to actually have those because I'll be able to, some days it is very tough doing this because um it's hard to sometimes, you look around you, you look on social media, you want to be able to do better, you want to be able to, travel the world and I know, my time's going to come sooner rather than later. However, it's great to go back in time and be able to say, okay, wow, like I've actually taken a lot of great steps for me to become a better producer. And with all the producers that I genuinely look up to that I've spoken to and had great conversations with, Will and Shugs and David Rust and all those guys as well and Sam Jones. Um, I look to them when it comes to motivation because they've been doing it for such a long time, and they've all said the same thing. It's like, it's a game of longevity at the end of the day. And in terms of finishing music is, you know, you can have a track finished, from start to finish, but being a perfectionist sometimes can work in your disadvantage because you don't want to keep tweaking things until they sound right because you're going to end up, wanting to just go crazy because you're the perfectionist mindset is kind of difficult. The best thing that you can do is actually just move on because once you move on from a project and you have it finished from start to finish, even though it's 80% up to your standards, now when you move on to the next project, you know what things that you can improve on, right? Because you're just turning a page. It's just another track that you're finishing. You're going to make hundreds of other tracks at the end of the day, right? So you know that, okay, from this point on, I'm going to do X, Y, Z differently. And that's why I have those old tracks in my SoundCloud because I know that I've been doing things differently and you're constantly iterating. So that's the motivation behind it really is you want to be better than your previous track. So yeah.
I love looking back at old things that I've done as well. Sometimes I cringe at them, but I think it shows growth. If I go back to
Yeah.
season one of the podcast, or even when I started emceeing, or I was just thinking over the weekend, I was working for EDM House Network at Eric Prydz, and I'm like, wow, my videos are a lot better than they used to be. I remember like back in the day, I would hold the camera so shaky and not know what clips to take. And now I
Yeah.
know exactly what videos I need to take. Like, I know yeah, okay, I'm not a professional photographer by any means, but like I can take a solid iPhone video that's going to be used
Yeah.
for work, and a couple years ago, I definitely could not. So it's about growth
Yeah.
and progress. And I think now you probably look back at your tracks from 5 years ago, with a smile.
Exactly right. Exactly right. I mean, more so a laugh than a smile, to be honest, because they're terrible, but they're still there. So yeah.
So in the electronic music scene, there's a lot of trends, of course. What trends do you see, right now in trance? Do you ever find like that you need to keep up with these trends? How do you stay true to your own sound while also playing what people want to
Yeah.
hear? Because I feel like especially now with TikTok and like every moment there's like a trend and then it's gone and then there's another trend.
Yeah. Honestly, yeah. Like, I sometimes I have. Look, I think I try to stay away from social media as much as I can, to be honest with you, because in terms of productivity, from my perspective, it doesn't really help with my productivity in finishing music. Um, with the TikTok trends, I know deep down that when I look at a TikTok trend, it's gonna come and go. So I try to be very selective on which types of trends that I would like to be able to influence myself, and still stay true to my sound. And I know currently, there's a trend of um, on TikTok of having everything to be reworked. This whole hyper techno type of trend that everything has to have a kick and bass on it. Um, what I try to do is, I've been doing remixes for quite a long time, like even before, these TikTok trends would just come and go. Um, what's important is that I think being an artist in a scene that's constantly evolving and changing is still staying true to your sound as much as you can. Being able to pay homage to what's, you know, out there at the moment in your sets. So I still play songs that I know for a fact that, as soon as I press play, people are going to go, batshit insane. And that might be, a reference from a TikTok song that I heard and I'm like, oh, this would definitely go off. But I want to make sure that, I'll play that and then people still know that it's me playing at the end of the day. Because one thing that I've noticed that is quite concerning is that you're sort of taking away from the individualism of music when it comes to these trends because, if an artist does great at the trend, but they don't have the discography to back it, then you're sort of shooting yourself in the foot because you don't want to be just riding that wave. And then if that wave crashes, you have nothing else to fall back on. So I always try to be able to, play it smart, rework things and play things that I know are going to make people have a good time. But I'm always going to be staying true to what I make at the end of the day. I'm always going to try my best to release, as many originals as I can that I enjoy making. I think even with sounds themselves, like I'll listen to, a trending, TikTok sound or whatever it might be. And if I like the melody of it, or if I like a specific sample or a kick drum, I'll be able to use that in my original track as well. So that way you're, being influenced by it rather than just being owned by it at the end of the day. So I think that's quite important.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. It's really easy today to just hop on trends. I mean, we see it all the time. I'm at festivals almost every weekend, so I'm hearing a lot of the same, a lot of the same
Yeah.
music everywhere I go. And obviously it's understandable, in today's society, DJs and producers have a lot of pressure on them. I heard recently, as a DJ and producer, you used to be good at DJing, you used to be good at producing, you used to be good at performing, you used to be a content creator. Like you're expected now to do everything. Whereas back in the day, it was just records. You showed up at the club or, you produce in the studio or you're one or the other. Now it's a lot. How do you balance and manage all that?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's great, and to top it off, Amy, I haven't quit my day job yet, so I'm not at the stage to be able to, do music full time at the end of the day. So hopefully that's going to happen one day. So me juggling, and look, I'm not the only person that has gone through this. Like all the people that I look up to, they had work, they were, working countless hours, and then they'll finish their shifts, and then they have to produce. So for me, I'm working Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, and then as soon as I finish work, I'm producing. Obviously, I have to look after my health as well, so going to the gym is important for me as well. And then all in between all of that, I have to be able to manage my social media presence, which sometimes, I'll be just very honest, it can be quite challenging, to be able to keep up with all these things. I think the thing that sort of helps me with it though is I like to, it's important to be able to know how the content works because if you're going to spend, 9, 10 hours on finishing a song, then you should be able to spend a decent amount of time to promote that song or be able to add your own personal touch to it. So I always try to go a step further in terms of promoting my music, whether it's on SoundCloud or whatever else. In you know, I've been designing all of my artworks on all my SoundCloud releases, so I'll be able to, use because I used to draw at, back in the day and be a big creative and design things on my laptop when I was in high school. So I always try to take it a step further and create a vision for the track, and then I'd be excited for it, and I'd actually be excited to make content for it as well. So it's part of the process, you know. I think TikToks I'm still getting the hang of because I'm not in the TikTok generation, even though I may look like it, but I'm really not. So
Yeah, you
I
look
try
pretty
to,
young.
yeah. Look, I'm 27 at the moment, but
That's
like
young. I'm 32.
I,
That's young.
I know. Yeah, I mean, you're young too, but you know how it is. Like these kids are like 17, 18. They're like with their TikTok content, they're like crazy with it. They will just make something in like 2 seconds. I'm still trying to figure out how to edit things in TikTok and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I think it's important to be excited for the music, the content that you're releasing, because then it's going to make it a lot easier for you to, upload things. Because it is quite important to keep that presence nowadays, right? And it's going to get easier eventually once I quit my day job. So,
Can you tell us what you do for a day job? And does your work know you're a DJ or producer?
yeah, they do. Yeah, I work in software, so I'm in software sales. I've always had a love for technology. Honestly, I love my work at the end of the day, but music is my passion. They're very well aware. I've had colleagues that have come to my events before, which is always great and fun to see them there. So yeah.
That's so cool. Yeah, it's great when you don't have to hide it. I used to have to hide what I did back in the day, but now I don't have to anymore. And it's
Yeah.
great. You don't feel like
Yeah.
you're living a double life as much. And that's cool that everything for you is like in technology, like producing and DJing is also technology. So it's good.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. So I want to talk a little bit about collaboration. So how do you go about working on a track with someone else? How do you seek out who you want to collaborate with? And do you have anybody you would love to collaborate with in the future?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, I've got to keep it hush hush for now, but I have a collaboration with David Rust, and that's been my favorite experience so far. David Rust is someone that I looked up to for a very, very long time. His debut show actually with Billy Gillies was back in 2019, and myself and a good friend of mine were the ones that had organized it at the time. So I met them back in 2019, and I've always stayed in touch with David and Billy and stuff. So that more information around that collab. So pretty much, I sent him the track. He loved it. He wanted to work on it with me. And sometimes, that track could be at different stages of production. That one definitely wasn't completely finished at all. It was just an idea at the time that I was very excited about. And you send something to an artist that sort of that they'll be enjoying it for sure, and it's also going to resonate with their sound as well. So that's quite important. But I'll never forget that moment, to be honest with you, because David is someone I've looked up to for a very long time, even before 2019 as well. And he's been a great person to work with for sure. Because he just took that track to a completely different level. So I can't wait to share some more information on that one. And also, artists that I'd like to, one of my best friends, Klaus, I've been producing with him for a long time. So, we have a couple of collaborations on the works as well. One of my great German friends, in Oblivion, he's a amazing up and coming trance artist. He's released on Carnage. He's had a few number ones this year, I'm pretty sure. We just got done finishing a hard techno collab because I went to Germany to visit some family back in July in 2023, and I ended up catching up with him. And then we went to this hard techno festival where we saw, I Hate Models and Trim and all these crazy artists. And ever since that day, we were like, bro, we need to make like a really, really crazy hard techno original because we were so inspired by it. Um, and people that I'd love to make a collaboration with in the future. I've released on Will's label. I'd love to make a producer collaboration with Will as well. Sam Jones is on my bucket list for sure. To just make something as crazy as possible. Billy, Ben, Nicky, people like that. But we'll see how that goes.
I'm
I'll just
obsessed
keep
with Ben
sending.
Nicky. I'm smiling when he said Ben
Yeah,
Nicky. And I'm smiling at a lot
yeah,
of people said, but Ben Nicky. Every time I saw him twice at Tomorrowland. I saw him at EDC Orlando. Anytime he's there, I'm like, the sets are so good. He's the best.
yeah. So hopefully, yeah, for sure. I love him. I look up to him a lot. Hopefully one day I get to make something with him as well, Until then, I'm just going to keep annoying the hell out of them and sending them stuff until they say yes.
What advice do you have then for DJs and producers when it comes to approaching a bigger artist for a collab? Do you slide into their DMs, or do you take more official measures to reach out to them?
I mean, honestly, like I think look, I feel like sliding into their DMs it depends on how they react to it, right? But I don't think you should approach it in a way that, let's do a collab kind of thing. It's sort of like I was very careful with the tracks that I was sending to people. Like firstly, like my first official release was on Victims Helpline, and I actually sent it to Will just on a hunch, and I was actually in hospital at the time recovering from getting my appendix removed. And I was in the hospital. I had finished this song, and I was like high on all these painkillers at the time, and I was on my phone. I had the SoundCloud link, and then for some reason I just sent it to Will via DMs, and I was like, "Hey, bro, I just want you to listen to it. If you ever want to play it, that's fine." I never even sent it to him to actually, as an official sort of demo drop kind of thing. It was sort of like, I just want you to hear it because I'm a huge fan. And then he believed in the track so much that he was like, yeah, he's ready to take it on. He gave me feedback, made the song even 100% better than what it was, which was, all thanks to him at the end of the day, because he has the tenure, the experience, the vision of making something amazing. We released the track, and then just, a week later, I think less than a week later, it hit #1 on the hard dance charts. And then it remained there for about 2-3 weeks. So I think don't approach artists with an agenda is very important. Like at the end of the day, everyone has their own agenda, but I think you want to approach it. And I've always been doing this. I've always approached artists to be able to gather their feedback first, because I know that there's a million other people that have been doing it for a lot longer, especially the people that I look up to. So if they could even just listen to it and write comments on it and tell me what I need to improve on, I'm just going to go back and just make that track better at the end of the day. And if they want to work on it with me, or if they want to, drop it in their sets or whatever the situation is, then that's even better. But, whether it's my personal life, professional life, music life, whatever it is, I've always been able to take feedback in the best way possible, whether it's good or bad. And when you're sending things to artists, you're always trying to get that feedback first. And then your own personal agenda, you can worry about that another day, because your time is going to come at the end of the day. You just need to become a better producer. So that's more the most important thing for me at the moment. It's year 5, so I still have a shit ton more to learn about producing. So yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure you've made incredible progress in those 5 years. And yeah, I agree with you. Being open to feedback, whether it's your normal job or in music, is important. I've heard some stories before of people, DJs receiving demos and giving feedback, and then the other person getting mad. And it's like, well, you asked for the feedback, and you need to be open to constructive feedback. And then also, of course, to negative feedback. We were talking previously about, putting yourself out there online. And from the moment you put yourself out there on the internet, you need to be open to strong opinions from people. So.
Yeah, for sure.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I read them, but it is what it is. If you get offended, you can just close your laptop and go for a walk, and then you'll be all right. You don't have to take that in your personal life at the end of the day. But anyways,
Yeah, for me, I'm kind of used to it now. I mean, I don't get that much
yeah,
negative feedback watching how people are going to come for me, but
yeah,
every once in a while I do, and it's usually the person has problems, and they're hiding behind the screen, or they're entitled to their opinion. Maybe they don't like hearing my voice, or maybe they don't like what I posted. They're entitled to that opinion as well. It's just some people are more vocal about it or not as nice about it.
exactly right, exactly right.
So I want to talk a little bit about Australia. So I've never been to Australia. Obviously, Australia has a huge rave scene. Being a DJ and producer from Australia, how would you describe the electronic music scene there? How are the parties there?
Look, party wise, it's always great, but I think it's quite challenging to be honest with you. In terms of the type of music that I produce and perform. I know, like I'm very close to events companies and promoters that are doing great things for the scene, that have looked after me for quite some time, which is amazing. Especially around the trance scene, um, and around the hard dance scene in a sense. I think hardstyle is a much bigger scene though than trance and hard dance. Really, I mean, hard dance you can sort of juggle those words, in the same time. They think they can always be compared. Hard style, hard dance, whatever it is. But the hard style scene in Australia is a lot bigger. We're talking about those big hard style events that HSU run. Things like your knockouts and those events that happen every year. They're always going to be packed. And there's events companies in Australia that are doing great for the trance scene as well. Um, what the challenging thing is that, because I'm an up and coming artist, it is quite challenging to get those consistent shows at the end of the day. But with the lack of consistency, at least you'll be able to create more quality shows. And the COVID was very, very tough, for the trance scene. And I was in the front lines of it, both as an artist and as a promoter as well, because it was just very tough to get numbers. Um, a lot of people you'll say, a lot of people will say back in the day that Australia was and maybe still is what they call a nanny state. We call it a nanny state here because we have, we used to have, I'm not sure, this depending on the club that you go to now, we used to have lockout laws, meaning that if you go into a club, you can't leave past midnight and you can't go back to that same venue, right?
Wait, what
So
you can't leave? Or
yeah,
what?
so pretty much what the lockout laws were, not you can't leave, sorry, I explained it pretty badly, but they keep you hostage.
Yeah, like what?
No, but so what the lockout laws were pretty much was you go into a club, right? And I think after midnight, if you want to do pass out, so if you want to go out for, let's just say, a cigarette, or you want to meet some friends and go back in, they won't allow you to go back into the club past midnight, right? So that's what the lockout laws were. And that pretty much hindered a lot of people from going into the venues to begin with because they want to be able to roam around freely and go into other clubs. Some clubs may have midnight as their lockout rules or maybe 1 a.m., depending on the club that you go to. But those laws really affected the way that the nightlife was treated in Sydney. A lot of the clubs started shutting down. And then COVID came, then they abolished those laws, but then COVID ended up coming anyway. So, things just started looking quite grim because nightlife was completely non-existent for quite some time. And then in Sydney, we had our lockdowns for COVID, and then um, we got back to normalcy, and then we got locked down again. So it was just like this whole up and down situation. So now I've just noticed that 2023 was the year of all these events companies sprawling and getting a name for themselves, which is great. And you're going to see it getting bigger and bigger as you go along, which is an amazing thing. There's new venues popping up. Um, the great thing about my sound is that I want to be able to play in not just the trancey trance events for the people that just want to listen to trance music, but I also want to be able to play into more of those harder style events, which I'm getting booked for. So being able to have a wide range of music is quite important because, especially in Australia, because you can play in different shows that have a variety of a lineup. You know, they'll have a hardstyle DJ playing, they'll have someone playing raw, and then they'll have someone like me as well playing, you know, hard dance and trance. So it's quite important because people in Australia, they're not just fans of one genre, they're fans of multiple genres as well. So yeah.
Nice. So when it comes to the dancing and the style of dress, would you say it's comparable to the US or the UK or to Europe? We talked about muzzing, but also Australia is known for shuffling. Can you talk a little bit about the differences in the subculture of raves in Australia compared to other countries?
Yeah, look, I've never been to the US, but that's going to change very soon, which I'm very
Yay.
excited about. That I'll mention soon. But you know, let's just say Germany, for example. Like I went to Germany in July, and I went to this wet open air festival, which was pretty much in this community you know, park slash pool area, which had like 10,000 people, which was insane. And it had three stages. What I noticed there in Germany was the energy was just on a completely different level that I've personally ever experienced, to be completely honest with you. So it's, you know, in Australia, it just depends on the event that you go to, right? Because you're going to get completely different personalities if you go to let's just say a psytrance event versus if you go to go out on a Saturday night and you listen to house, for example, right? It's completely different worlds, right? And that's the great thing about Australia, right? Is that you can go one weekend, you may want to feel like you want to go to a club like Massive, which is like, you know, a staple of the hardstyle scene in Sydney. And you're going to see people in TNs hacking for like 8 hours straight. And
Yeah.
you can just, you know, sweat for as long as you want there, right? Which is great. Or you can go to a psytrance event, you know, and do the exact same thing, but have a completely different vibe at the end of the day, right? So it just depends on the night and what you want to experience. I feel like there's ravers everywhere, you know, and some nights are better than others. But what I did notice, you know, raving in Germany, nobody stopped moving. Like it was just insane for the entire event. It was just a completely different level of energy that I have ever experienced. So that's why I can't wait to experience, you know, what the US and, you know, what Europe and the UK have to offer. Because I've done my raving here as well, which is great. Like as a punter, you know, I still want to play some great shows here as well, but I also want to be able to experience what's out there in the world.
Yeah, the US is crazy. I mean, it really depends where you go, but I talk a lot on my podcast about the difference between, you know, because I live in the Netherlands now, the difference between the Dutch scene and the US scene. And I'm very active in both scenes. And then also compared to Germany and Belgium and Croatia and, you know, all the places
Yeah.
I've been, it's always interesting to see the style of dress and the dancing and the way people party and the way people interact. And, you know, just there's so many nuances and subtleties. So it's always interesting to talk to people in different countries about what it's like there, because at the end of the day we all love the music, right? But there are differences.
Yeah. There are, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Totally. So
Yeah.
do you have any venues in Australia that are close to your heart, or do you have any recommendations of clubs that people should go to or festivals for first timers? I'm trying to go to Australia, I think.
Yeah, look, you know, venues in Sydney, it just depends on the night, to be honest with you. You know, Chicane is an up and coming venue at the moment that's doing quite well. You know, Metro was, you know, back when I was raving, and I've played at the Metro as well, was an amazing experience. Metro is a great venue. There's a lot of clubs that are popping up at the moment. You know, the Ivy is, if you just want to go for a night out and enjoy, you know, and get drunk with your friends and listen to all different kinds of music, then the Ivy is a great venue. You know, some venues are a lot better with sound than others, right? So it just depends on what's out there on the night. The one thing is you got to know as well is summer season is approaching Australia, which is great. So you're going to get a lot of artists that are going to be flying over from the US or the UK or Europe that are going to be playing. And the great thing about Australia is that even though some weekends you may not be able to experience a good, I wouldn't say good, but you wouldn't be able to experience a wild club night, but at least you'll be able to experience a massive, festival. For example, like Dream State was on the other week. You have, your knockouts, your HTRD events. Like there's all these crazy, crazy large scale events that are happening in Sydney and in Melbourne, which is great. I know Melbourne has a lot more clubs than Sydney does, that's for sure. So the nightlife is a lot crazier. I've played in Perth. Metro City in Perth is an amazing venue. And that's one of my highlights in my music career. That was a great time. So it just really depends on what's on for that weekend, right? So it's always great, because you're getting a lot of different things week by week. So yeah.
Nice. I'll have to come sometime. I'll add it to my list.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Awesome. So we're coming to the end now. I just have a couple more questions for you. In conclusion, are there any last things that you want to say to your fans? Any advice for up and coming DJs?
Yeah, most definitely. Look, I think honestly, like I'm not in a great place to give some great advice, but also not, because I want to be able to be as humble as possible in my journey. I've been very lucky to be able to create a following, on my social presence like SoundCloud this early on in my career, and I'm super grateful for that. But I want to be able to remain humble and be able to learn as much as I can with my journey. So I think, the advice that I've been giving myself, and that I'll be able to share with people that are starting off as well is never be afraid to take on, as much feedback as you can, whether it's, completely negative feedback, whether it's someone even, bashing what you do, be able to just take it on the chin and say, you know what, even if it's someone that's coming from, a wrong place in their life, you can say, you know what, maybe I should be able to improve on this. I want to be able to improve, as a person first, to be able to take on, this kind of feedback, whether it's good or bad, about your productions, about where you can improve on what you can do better with your DJing or with your sound design. Don't be afraid to just take that on and at least try. Because if you try and you feel like you're becoming a better person than what you were yesterday, then that's what matters. And that's what I think is very important for me. Every day I try to wake up and try to, push myself a couple of minutes more, or half an hour more, an hour more in my production or whatever it is. And there's always going to be people there that are, that are going to want the worst for you, right? But you want to stay close to people that want the best for you at the end of the day. And I think what's led me to this moment, and what's most important for me, is I've always stayed true to the things that I enjoy making, the things that I have been able to make a sound off of, and develop my particular, personal sound. And, my listeners eventually found me because I've been able to create things that I completely love, and I have found the people that I can share it with. And that's the most important thing. And you're going to find more and more people at the end of the day. And those are the people that you want to stay true to, are the people that have been listening to you for a very long time, and they like the way that you're evolving at the end of the day, because they're going to be able to support you in the best way possible. And I'm forever grateful for that, because, I have a presence especially on SoundCloud, that, it just blew up one night. I uploaded my first ever live set that I did in front of a crowd. I uploaded it on SoundCloud, and it ended up getting picked up by one of the algorithms. It started getting played after Ben Nicky's sets, and then my SoundCloud started blowing up, which was insane to think about at the time. But at least I know that I am in a position where I'm with some amazing, beautiful people. And I've met so many amazing people from all around the world from it. They've sent me messages. They're saying, this is improving my gym sessions. Like I'm listening to this as my pre-workout. I'm listening to music when I'm feeling down or low or high or up. And honestly, like I'm constantly pinching myself. And now I'm at a stage where I've kept working, even though some days it's been extremely difficult and challenging, especially with things that may happen in my personal life. But I've always stayed true to those people that have supported me and the music that I love making. And now it's come to a point where I'll be um, able to announce my first, international show in Miami on February 17th on Saturday, which is even crazy to think about that, I have friends there now that I've just met, um, that believe in my sound, that I have people, shuffling to my music over in Miami, in the US, that is just going to allow me to, keep chasing this dream and, little by little, it'll eventually pay off. So I think my advice to people is, patience, iteration, hard work, and persistence, I think are very important. But also, love is important, being able to love what you do. Because without love for the type of music that you make, you won't be able to be motivated or persistent or, passionate enough to get to where you want to be. And, I think persistence and patience is important because I know how long it takes to make it. And I'm not rushing in any way. So, I still have a few years ahead of me at least. So we'll see how it goes.
That's great advice for sure. So this is the question that I ask all of my guests. How do you rave for a cause or party for a purpose in your life?
Yeah, look, I think a great, honestly, a great example of that is, my first event. At first, the first rave, sorry, that I went to when I was 18, because I was with all my friends. And at first, I went there just to party and to have fun. We were young, we were stupid, crazy, having fun. Went there and it was a completely different experience that I ever felt in my entire life because everyone there was just there to have a good time. And even if we saw a person that was just looking low and they weren't looking okay, then how supportive the rave family is in a sense, right? When you go to an event and you're trying to take care of the people around you, and what was important for me at that first event was that, all the other future events and raves that I went to, even as a punter, um, you would have conversations with people and make friendships with people that, are still your lifelong friends. You chat to them about what their challenges are, what they're trying to achieve. And you're doing this all in one night. It's an amazing thing because you have a love for the music and, Cosmic Gate plays an amazing track, or you listen to Sun and Moon and, you have all these kids around you that have just started, going to the gym and they're all motivated to, kick goals at the end of the day, right? And it's a beautiful thing because you see it and you realize that everyone is going through the same thing. You're not any different to anyone else at the end of the day. Everyone has their issues at home. Everyone has their challenges they're trying to face, health concerns. That's why they're going to the gym. That's why they're, trying to be better versions. They've just got laid off or they have a new job or, it's people are all going through the same ups and downs. And the fact that you can bring all of that as in one place, as in the most therapeutic way possible to be able to, you know, party with everyone and rejoice and be able to appreciate and celebrate all the terrible things and the great things that have happened to you, and share one singular love for the music. I think it's amazing, right? It's an amazing thing, and what you're going through personally, that the people around you are going through the same thing or a similar thing at least, right? And you can resonate with that, and you can be able to heal by dancing and having fun and partying and talking to people and just sitting down and chilling out near the festival grounds or whatever it is. And for me, I'm just very thankful that I would like to take it a step further and be able to press play and be able to create that experience for people that might need it. So I think that's very important. So, I've always played music for a cause, and that's because I want to make people feel better at the end of the day. I think that's very important. And I want them to feel something as well. If it's rage, if it's passion in that moment, the same thing that I'm feeling, I want them to be able to express their emotions as well. So that's my ultimate purpose in this. Whether it be, I'm just going out with my friends to listen to one of my favorite artists, or whether I'm playing.
Yeah, that's great. I think that's the best part about raves is just being able to be the truest version of yourself, let it all out on the dance floor. It's definitely a space where there's not judgment. You can go crazy if you need to rage, you can rage. And that's what I love about it too, for sure. So my last question is, where can people connect with you online?
Yeah, so you can look me up on Instagram, DAVOR Sound. You can look me up on Spotify, Apple Music, DAVOR, all caps. I need to talk to Apple Music because they don't have my name in all caps. So you just look up my first name, DAVOR. You'll be able to find me. You can find me on SoundCloud, DAVOR, all caps. And you can also find me on February 17th. I believe it's February 17th. Hang on, let me double check. Yeah, Saturday, February 17th, in Miami, my first international debut. I'm very excited for that. And I'll have some other event announcements coming soon next year as well. So, but that's all available on my social media.
Awesome. Thank you so much for today. I hope to meet you in person sometime. And I look forward to listening to more of your music. Guys, definitely go and check him out. Go see him in Miami. Oh, I wish I was there for that. I was in Miami last March, but I won't be there this year, but maybe in the future.
Fair enough. Sounds good. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Bye. So that was my episode with DAVOR. It was really cool how we got connected, actually. It's a really random story. So a friend of mine and friend of the podcast, DJ Levincon, Isaiah, I think you guys know him by now. He's always popping up on my stuff. He met a guy named Dan at Electric Zoo in New York many, many years ago. They kept in touch. And then so this past year at Ultra, they were hanging out at Dan's place in Miami. And my friend Daniel, so it gets a little confusing, but my friend Daniel was in my group for Ultra. You've also seen him in all my stuff. He was with me at EDC Orlando, Ultra, Tomorrowland, etc. He was staying at Dan's place. Turns out Daniel and Isaiah both realized they know me. So they invited me to Dan's. All like the pre-games and after parties for Ultra were at Dan's. So I ended up meeting Dan, and then I needed a place to stay Sunday night or Sunday morning, really. I don't remember, because there was an after party and like we didn't have the hotel for that night. So I ended up staying there, becoming friends with him. Now we're really good friends. And he told me, he's like, I have the perfect person for you for the podcast. He's my friend DAVOR. He's a trance DJ from Australia. So that's how I got connected, which is so cool. What a small world. This scene, as big as we think it is, it's actually really small. Everybody knows each other. And everyone's looking to help each other. And that's what community is all about. So I love that. Love this conversation. It was just cool. I think he's the first really trance DJ that I've had on the podcast. We've had bass music, we've had hard dance, obviously. So it was really a great conversation. Please go and check out his music. I put all the links down below in the show notes, so go and check that out. And now, as always, before we sign out, a couple of announcements and messages from our sponsors. So this episode is brought to you by one of our partners, Relita Couture. Relita Couture is a handmade rave festival fashion brand that's sure to make you feel sexy and confident and comfortable at your next event. The clothes are high quality, functional. You know about the pockets already. So head on over to relitacouture.com and use code MCUnicorn to save some money at checkout today, because sexy has no size. You guys know by now, another sponsor of the podcast, Shroom Beach. You can use my code MCUnicorn20 on shroombeach.com and shop from some amazing psychedelic swimwear and festival outfits. Best of all, a portion of the proceeds from every purchase goes to support the Psychedelic Research Institute. So head on over to shroombeach.com or click the link down below in the description to learn more. I also want to shout out My other podcast, So Ravers Revelations, is now available on YouTube on Elena Van Wyck's channel. It's also available on Spotify. And then we have all the bonus episodes, the bonus content on Patreon. So Patreon is also a great way to support me. You can sign up for as little as $5 a month, and there you get a lot more of me. If you want to hear some crazy stories, you can head on over there. So just go on over to patreon.com/raversrevelations. You can also just sign up for a free trial. Sign up for a week. If you hate it, you can cancel. If you like it, you can stay. Or if you forget, no, just kidding. But head on over to patreon.com, and thank you guys so much for your support. One other way that you can support me, it's free, is to give me a follow at MC Unicorn Official. You can follow me on TikTok and on Instagram. Please also follow Drop Bass Not Bombs NL just on Instagram. And of course, leave us 5 stars if you like the episode. Drop a comment. And if you're watching on YouTube, please click the bell. Please like and subscribe. Do all the things. Also comment, of course, give me a thumbs up. And I'll see you guys Friday, February 16th for the next episode. Bye.